Hey guys, it's Sim and this is Wrestling Unlimited. The 2021 came and gone. Honestly, this year felt like it flew the heck by, and with that, a lot of things happened in the world of professional wrestling, from the pandemic, returning to the road, Triple H's cardiac arrest, Seth Rollins getting attacked, many people being released by WWE, and so much more. So we have for you the top 10, at least in my opinion, news stories of 2021 as we roll in to 2022. Let's jump in there right now.
Number 10. Fans return.
Back at WrestleMania this year, WWE brought the fans back. They were at Raymond James Stadium. It was limited capacity, even though there was like 40,000 people there each night, but it was still limited capacity. And we thought, okay, fans are back. Things are coming back, and then we're back in the Thunderdome. AEW still at Jacksonville, yes, with fans, but not on the road. Then WWE announces that on July 16th in Houston, Texas, they're back on the road. AEW then announces July 7th, Cedar Park, Texas, they're back on the road. Both companies have been going strong ever since, and it looks like neither are going to stop, even though, well, COVID and COVID positives are back up on the rise.
Number 9. The finish. AEW Revolution.
So back on March 7th, we saw a big main event. It was a exploding barbed wire match between Kenny Omega and Jon Moxley with the AEW World title on the line. Now in this match, there was a lot of explosions because, well, it's an exploding barbed wire match. But one explosion really didn't go off as expected. At the end of the match, the timer started ticking down that the big explosion was coming. Eddie Kingston ran into the ring to cover Jon Moxley, who had been taken out and defeated by Kenny Omega, when all of a sudden, well, the sparklers went off. Big explosions were supposed to come out of all four corners of the ring, and, well, that didn't happen. The fans were furious by this, as they felt like they were shafted from a big moment. After the Revolution pay-per-view, actually did a really good pay-per-view buy, with so many fans going in for that match, but feeling disappointed coming out of that match.
Number 8. ROH announces major changes to come and releases the entire company.
Back on October 27th, just out of the blue, we get news that ROH is changing the structure of the company. ROH, effective the end of the year, will be releasing most of their talent from the company. Effective March, everybody else still under contract will be released, and the company will be running under a new business model. Since then, we have heard a couple of different things on what this new business model will be, with basically Ring of Honor running like an indie promotion. Ring of Honor going forward will most likely just be an indie promotion where they have their champions and then they bring guys in for matches for every event. We don't know exactly how many events a year they're going to run, but they have continued to state that they want to keep their weekly television going with their broadcast partner and owner, Sinclair Broadcasting. So we'll see how that all does go, as that's a story from 2021 that we will continue to follow going into 2022 when the revamp does take place next April.
Number 7. NXT 2.0 is here.
So back in August, word started trickling out that major changes were coming to NXT. NXT as we knew it was no longer going to be a thing. NXT 2.0 was coming, and on September 14th, NXT 2.0 was here with a revamped performance center, or what they now no longer call the CWC, brighter colors, splashes of everything, and a lot of, hey, we're going gritty and hot. It's kind of fell to what some fans may call it now, shitty and not. NXT 2.0 has failed to hit the mark of what the revamp of this brand was supposed to be. It was supposed to be a brand that was supposed to attract the younger audience. That key demo, the 18 to 49 demo. They thought putting hot women on television, people talking about social media and more adult storylines, that would bring in the younger audience. But as we see every week, NXT 2.0, just like its predecessor NXT Black and Gold, still seems to have the oldest audience of any show every single week in professional wrestling.
Number 6. Triple H's cardiac event.
Back on September 8th, WWE took to social media to just randomly announce, oh, by the way, last week, Triple H had to have surgery for a cardiac event. They tried playing it off like this wasn't that big of a deal and that maybe he wouldn't miss that much time away, but he has missed a lot of time. Triple H has been gone since that announcement has been made, even before, because he had the surgery a week before the announcement was made on September 8th. And they still, again, tried to play it off like, oh, he's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. Triple H has really, from what we can tell, not been to work much since the surgery took place. We have seen video of Triple H with other executives, his wife Stephanie and his father-in-law Vince, taking a tour of the new WWE headquarters, but that's really about it. We know that he's never been to an NXT 2.0 taping. NXT 2.0 started September 14th, and according to Shawn Michaels and others, Triple H has not been there at all for any NXT 2.0 shows. The last word we got on Triple H in his, quote, cardiac event was from Dave Meltzer, where he said that, no, this was a, quote, very, very, very serious deal. Again, we still don't know what's going on with Triple H. New rumors are that he will never wrestle again following this cardiac event, and we'll see how it all does go. Again, like I stated, Triple H has been gone since before September 8th. He has not been to any NXT 2.0 tapings, and it's unclear when he will actually return to work. Again, we know that he's taken a tour of the new facilities up there in Stamford, but other than that, we haven't heard anything on Triple H returning to his normal duties.
Number 5. Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair get a little too real on Friday Night SmackDown.
This year, WWE held their draft and they switched to the Women's Champions. Becky Lynch was the SmackDown Women's Champion and moved to Monday Night Raw. Charlotte Flair was the Raw Women's Champion and moved to Friday Night SmackDown. Now, on the October 22nd edition of Friday Night SmackDown, well, they had a, I guess you could say, title swap that didn't quite go down according to plan. During the segment, Charlotte Flair, well, went off script. She was supposed to exchange the titles in the ring with Sonya Deville facilitating, and she instead basically just dropped the title on the floor, right there in the middle of the ring. This then led to Becky Lynch getting upset and throwing her title at Flair. Eventually, the three women would go backstage, Becky Lynch, Charlotte Flair, and Sonya Deville, and not too much happened backstage other than basically them telling Charlotte to leave now and Becky having to go right back out there for a dark match with Bianca Belair. It was stated that Sonya Deville was so upset with the segment that she wanted to, quote, almost fight Charlotte Flair. This story got picked up by so many outlets, not just in wrestling media, but outside of wrestling media as well, making it one of the top stories in WWE and all professional wrestling all year, even leading to Becky Lynch being interviewed about it on the MMA Hour with Ariel Helwani.
Number 4. Seth Rollins gets attacked by a fan.
Back on the November 22nd edition of Monday Night Raw, Seth Rollins was set to have a match with Finn Balor. The match ended up not going down because the scheduled plan was for Seth to just beat up Finn, leading to a match the following week. As Seth was exiting the ringside area and walking back up the ramp, he was then abruptly met by a fan who tackled him and basically speared him down the ramp itself. Seth, not wanting to truly fight back, held the fan down until referees and security were able to obtain the fan. We then learn that there's way more to this story than anybody could have imagined. The fan apparently thought that he was talking to Seth Rollins on the internet, that he was in communication with the former WWE and Universal Champion, and was trying to, I guess you could say, get in his good graces to get into the wrestling industry. He stated that he sent, quote, money to Seth Rollins, and Rollins was supposed to reimburse him, but he never did. He stated that Rollins started to ghost him, and that is what upset him. But then, for some reason, the guy changes the story and said, no, I did what I did to help Finn Balor, who Seth Rollins had attacked right before I attacked him. The last we really did hear of this story was Seth Rollins talking with TMZ and being asked, are you going to press charges? Seth said, I don't really have a comment on that right now, and the thing kind of was dropped.
Number 3. Multiple WWE stars leave for AEW.
So this was the first year where we really saw a big influx of former WWE talent into AEW, and not just because so many guys were released by WWE this year, but because a few of them actually let their contract expire or got out of their contract and then moved over to AEW. This all actually first started with Andrade. Back on, I want to say, March 21st, it was announced that Andrade had asked for his release from WWE. After getting said release from WWE, it was also stated he had no compete clause and was able to sign immediately. After being released in March, Andrade would then appear on AEW on June 4th, 2021. It would be announced that he would be going under the name Andrade El Idolo, and he had signed with All Elite Wrestling. This would only be the first of 4 men to leave WWE on their own this year and go to AEW. The other 3, Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole, and Kyle O'Reilly. Now, these 3 are a little different than Andrade. Andrade asked for his release and was given it by WWE. The other 3, well, they let their contracts expire and then showed up in AEW. Danielson was the first to let his contract expire shortly after WrestleMania, with Adam Cole's contract expiring just this past August. Both Danielson and Cole would debut at the All Out pay-per-view, with O'Reilly coming just a few short months later and debuting just 2 weeks ago on AEW Dynamite. Now, an interesting turn in all of this, we heard that Kevin Owens' contract was coming up with WWE, and many felt, oh yeah, it's inevitable, he's going to AEW, and then nope, flip the script. Kevin Owens signed a new multi-year deal with WWE, so that's one guy that did not let his contract expire and go to AEW. Now you may ask, what about Johnny Gargano? We don't know. When Kyle O'Reilly's contract expired, Johnny Gargano's contract expired, but he's been pretty quiet on what his next plans in pro wrestling are gonna be.
Number 2. CM Punk signs with AEW.
So for 7 years, the fans have wanted to see CM Punk back in some sort of form or fashion in professional wrestling. We first got a notion that CM Punk was training for an in-ring return on July 21st in a report from Fightful. They stated that CM Punk was in negotiations to return to the ring, with his landing point most likely being AEW. Leading up to AEW Rampage on August 20th, there was a lot of hints and teases by All Elite Wrestling that, well, CM Punk was coming. Most notably, Darby Allin saying, "I want to fight the best in the world," and then, well, AEW booking just out of nowhere an arena in Chicago for an episode of Rampage. That episode of Rampage, as mentioned on August 20th, was the AEW debut of CM Punk. The crowd in Chicago went wild as the Second City Saints did finally make his big return to professional wrestling. Just a couple short weeks later, on September 5th, Punk would have his first match for AEW, where he successfully defeated Darby Allin.
Number 1. WWE releases over 80 superstars.
So in 2021, we probably saw the biggest exodus from WWE of any previous year. Throughout the year, starting in January and going all the way to November, WWE released over 80 superstars. A lot of these releases did come as shockers, as some were big names, former world champions, and superstars on the rise that we thought they had big plans for. So we're going to run down every single name that was released from WWE and what they're doing next. The releases started in early January, when we did learn that Lars Sullivan had been released from the company. In February, we learned that The Big Show had been released from his contract. Now, there's some conflicting reports here with Big Show, or Paul White, because it was stated that he was released, but at the same time, many believe that his contract may have just expired. Also in February, Steve Cutler was released from the company. Again, there's conflicting reports here with Steve Cutler stating that he was released after going to a New Year's Eve party and then contracting COVID. Yet, he wasn't released till February. In March, Andrade was released. Now, this came after Andrade actually requested his release. The most interesting thing about Andrade's release, well, he didn't have a no-compete clause. He got released, was able to do whatever he was, and in June, signed with AEW. And then this year, more WWE superstars were released on April 15th. We got the Iconics, Billy Kay and Peyton Royce. The two are now known as the Inspiration and have signed with Impact Wrestling. Mojo was released by the company to yet only be re-signed by the company and brought to NXT. It was stated that Triple H was actually shocked by the release of Samoa Joe, as he was trying to already get Samoa Joe to move down to NXT, and when Samoa Joe got released, Triple H got him back into the company. Joe is now out with an injury, but working as a talent scout for WWE and was seen at WWE's last tryout, scouting talent there. Kalisto been released from WWE. Kalisto, now going by his old name Samurai Del Sol, has worked for both AEW and AAA. Mickie James was released and has since worked for the NWA, not just as a wrestler, but as a producer, and put on the NWA's first ever all-woman show. Plus, Mickie is working for Impact Wrestling, where she is the current Impact Knockouts champion. Chelsea Green. Chelsea Green, she's done a little bit of everything. She's gone on to work for multiple companies like Impact Wrestling, ROH, and GCW. Tucker was released from WWE, hasn't really done anything since. The same goes for Bo Dallas. Bo Dallas was also released on April 15th. Also released on April 15th, Mojo Rawley. And with the final release on April 15th, Wesley Blake. Wesley Blake did appear on EC3's The Narrative 2 and also appeared with EC3 at Ring of Honor Final Battle. More releases were to come on May 20th. Those releases included Kavita Devi, Jessamine Duke, Vanessa Bourne, Skylar Story, who is now back working under her old name Brandy Lauren with Impact Wrestling, Ezra Judge, who is now going by the name EJ Nduka and working for MLW, Alexander Wolf, The Velveteen Dream. More releases were to come on June 2nd, with the biggest there being former Universal Champion Braun Strowman. Since being released by WWE, Strowman did appear on EC3's Free the Narrative 2 and alongside EC3 at Ring of Honor Final Battle. Also released, Lana. Buddy Murphy was released from the company. Since being released, he has done some shots for New Japan Pro Wrestling and has some upcoming indie dates scheduled as well. Another one released, Aleister Black. Aleister Black, now going by the name Malachi Black, is an integral part of All Elite Wrestling. Ruby Riott was also released on June 2nd, now going by the name Ruby Soho. Ruby is part of AEW and next week will be fighting for the opportunity to become the first ever TBS champ in AEW. Also released, Santana Garrett. Hasn't worked too much since being released, but has done a couple shots for AEW. More releases were to come just a few weeks later on June 25th. Those releases did see Fandango, who is now going by the name Dirty Dango and has had made some shots at various independents and for the NWA. Tyler Breeze was also released, but we really haven't seen him do anything out of, his online streaming stuff. Tony Nese was released and, has been signed by AEW. Also released, Arya Daivari. Arya Daivari has made a couple shots for New Japan Pro Wrestling. August Gray. August Gray has worked a couple of different indies here and there and even did a couple shots for AEW. Also released, Samir and Sunil Singh, the Bollywood Boys. Kurt Stallion. Arturo Ruas. Marina Shafir. Shafir did compete back at Bloodsport and has made an appearance for All Elite Wrestling. The tag team, Everrise. Everrise has since turned themselves into 2.0 and have signed with AEW. Then in a huge shocker, on July 31st, Bray Wyatt was released from WWE. Wyatt has not done anything pro wrestling related since being released from WWE. It was stated that he may be working on some Hollywood projects right now. On August 2nd, WWE just randomly said Ric Flair has been released. It was noted that Ric Flair may have asked for said release. Another wave of releases came on August 6th, starting with Bobby Fish. Bobby Fish made an appearance or two for MLW before signing with All Elite Wrestling. Bronson Reed. Bronson Reed has worked for both New Japan Pro Wrestling and Impact since being released. Jake Atlas. Jake Atlas hasn't done much since being released by WWE. He did do a shot or two for ROH and just this past week worked for AEW. Ari Sterling. Sterling has basically got his old spot back as a regular with GCW. Kona Reeves. Leon Ruff. Stephen Smith. Tyler Rust. Zakaria Smith. Asher Hale. Giant Zangier. Mercedes Martinez. Mercedes Martinez did do a shot or two for Impact Wrestling, and then just this week it was announced and, she is signed with All Elite Wrestling. Then things started to slow down for a month or two, and then November, more. On November 4th, we got the release of B-Fab, Ember Moon, Eva Marie, Frankie Monet. And we do know that Frankie Monet will be working with AAA once her no-compete is up. Grand Metalik, Davey Boy Smith Jr., Jeet Rama, Jesse Kamea, Karrion Kross, Katarina Cortez, Keith Lee, Mia Yim, Nia Jax, Oni Lorcan, Scarlett Bordeaux. Scarlett Bordeaux has already, I think I want to say, made 2 indie appearances since being released by WWE. Trey Baxter. Trey Baxter, again, just like Ari Sterling, got in his old spot back as a regular with GCW. And Zeta Ramier. The last set of mass releases did come on November 19th, with some shockers there as well. Shanti the Adonis, Top Dollar, Isaiah Swerve Scott, Drake Maverick, Jackson Riker, John Morrison, who has already been announced for an upcoming AAA event, I want to say in March, where he will challenge Vikingo for the Mega Championship. Shane Thorne, and Tegan Knox. But those were not it. We also learned back on December 9th that Jeff Hardy had been released by WWE. That was a big story where Jeff Hardy had an incident at a live event where he was working a 6-man tag and then just left. Jumped in the crowd and left the match. We still don't know the full details of what went down with Hardy in that match, but it did lead to his release. And finally, the last release we got was just this past week, as Toni Storm has been released by WWE. The word going around is that after Wednesday's live event in Washington, D.C., Storm flew herself home and requested her release. WWE granted said release, but we don't know the details of that release just yet. So with that, those were the 10 biggest news stories in pro wrestling in all of 2021. 2022 is starting now. If you're watching this video on January 1st, then today it's 2022. And who can imagine what big news stories we get throughout this next upcoming year? So with that, if you think there were any bigger stories in pro wrestling this year than the ones that we covered here today, let us know in the comments below. Also, if you like this video and want to see more just like it, well, hit that thumbs up button, letting us know you like this video. But that's going to do it for this episode. Remember to comment below, like and share this video, like us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and subscribe right here on YouTube.